Welcome to the Excel Scavenger Hunt answer key. I'm going to be going through these. Let's see how many I can get through in 15 minutes, which is the max I can record here. I'll do another video. Well, I'm sure I'll need to do another video. All right, let's start with number one. Use VLOOKUP or isNumberMatch to compare two lists. And we're going to check them both directions. So the first thing I'm going to do is just make two lists of fake data. 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm going to do 5 here. And on my next list, I'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, and I will do 6 so that they're not matching exactly. There'll be one that's wrong on each of them, and the rest should match. So if I'm using VLOOKUP, actually, let me just add one more column in here. If I'm doing VLOOKUP, then all I'm going to do is look up what's in A1 in my other column here, and I will do 1 false and copy this down, and if there's a match you'll see the number. If there isn't, you'll see whatever's in here. If there isn't, then you'll get the NA error. Now this is not a tutorial on VLOOKUP or isNumberMatch, but because you can find VLOOKUP tutorials on the web. But this is just showing what I meant by that. All right, so this is VLOOKUP, and I'll do isNumberMatch here. So isNumber just checks to see if something's a number, and match will find a value. Excuse me. Match will find a value inside another thing, and I'm going to do an exact match, and there we go. So it's going to say true if it matches, and it's going to say false if it doesn't matches. So I've gone one way here, and now I'm just going to go the other way. I'm just going to do exactly the same thing, but on the other side. Now you don't need to do both isNumberMatch and VLOOKUP. I'm just doing that as an example here. But if you want to, go ahead and try. All right, and of course I can double click in the bottom right corner and copy all my cells down. And you can see here that any number that was on both lists got either a number here and an error, or a true and a false. And same thing over here. You can see that it all worked out. So there you go, there's number one. Let's see how many I can do on this sheet. Number two is use conditional formatting to compare two sets of data. You should only need one conditional formatting equation. All right, so for this one, I'll just make a table so we can see what we're talking about. I'll say 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, 6, excuse me, 6, 7, and 8. Let's do 9, 10, 11, and 12 as well. And I'll just be copying this set over here, but let's change this one to be different. All right, so I just want to compare these two sets of data. Now, when we're going to do that, we're going to do that frequently if we have a table that we've uploaded somewhere, and then we want to download that data again and check it against our original stuff. We want to see if these two tables, which have the same columns and the same everything, match perfectly. So I'll just give headers A, B, C, and D, and we'll have the same headers on the other side. All right, so to do this, I'm going to do conditional formatting on the whole table. And I'm going to pick conditional formatting. I'm going to do new rule because I'm going to do a custom rule. And let's take a look before I go over at what cells we're in. This first one is in G9 and this one is in A9. So we're going to be comparing G9 to A9. Now how these rules work is that whatever formula you put in the top left, if you could copy that formula across the whole table and it would still work, then it'll use that formula. So I just need to write a formula for G9 that would work in any cell if I was using copy paste, meaning I need to really think about my relative and fixed references. In this particular case, I don't care about anything being fixed. I want everything to just move along with the cells. So all I have to do is say equals if G9 equals A9, then if that's the case, then I don't want a color because I'm fine if it matches. I only want to highlight if it doesn't match. So if they're equal to another, then I'm going to say false, meaning I don't want a color. If they're not matching, then I'm going to say true. And then I'm going to format in bright red. Here we go. I'm going to fill in bright red, hit OK, and you can see that any cell now here, if I change this, would now have a color. So this is a way where if you put two sets of data that should be exactly the same, or should at least have the same columns and should have mostly the same rows, you can quickly find any data that's different. So that's number 2. All right, number 3, replicate the result in this cell but using just one formula. Okay, so what's happening in this cell right here? You can see that in T8 we have a sum of T4 to T6. You can see that right there. And what's happening in T4 to T6? Well, it's multiplication of these two. So what we're doing here is a weighted average. How the weighted average works is first you multiply each row together to get these, and then you take the sum of that. And you're gonna, actually the weighted average, should be divided by the sum of the weights. So that was actually my mistake right there. But what the point of this is that if you wanted to do this all in one formula, let me just copy this over into another sheet so we can do it without messing up the front page. If we wanted to do that, all we'd have to do is equals sum product. Sum product multiplies the rows and then adds them all up. Sum product of that and that. That gives us what was the sum of the third column, column C. And we're going to divide it by the sum of the weights. And we have our weighted average using one formula without having to use these intermediary steps. All right, we're on to question 4, which is creating a table and naming it Cornerstone. Well, all I really wanted you to see here is how to make a table. So I will call it, I'll just make a fake table, name and DOB. And we're gonna say Freddie Adu, and his date of birth, I actually don't remember what it was, but let's just say 1/1/99. And let's do Pele, and I don't know what his birthday is, but let's say 1/5/1960, just some fake data. I want to make this into a table. To do that, you click Home, you say Format as Table, and you just click Enter. Make sure that you're paying attention to what's the header row. You can also just do Control L, and it's going to default to a certain format, but that's a really quick way to make a table. You can see if you have a table 1 because of course the formatting, but also you have table tools up here where you can design it. You can name it Cornerstone, which is I believe what we're supposed to be doing right now. And you can change the format. You can change lots of aspects about it. All right, let's see here. We are on question number 5. Connect your Cornerstone table to Power Query. All right, so now we have our table. In order to connect it to Power Query, we're going to go to Data, and under Get and Transform Data, we're going to click From Table Range. What that's doing is it's taking the table that we have our cursor in, which is the Cornerstone table, and my computer is really struggling here. But it's going to pull that data into Power Query if it ever starts working again. Here we go. Yes, it's working. So you can see up here it says Cornerstone Power Query Editor. And here it is. If I expand this, you can see what queries I have. You can see Cornerstone is pulling in here. And this is a handy way where you can do lots of transformations on your table data and then spit it out again. We are not going to do that. Well, maybe I will. Here, I'll close this and load it. And you can see here that it's going to spit out in another table on another tab. If I had manipulated the data, it would come out right here, manipulated. All right, so I'll just put that here as Power Query Output. And let's just move that to the end because we don't really need that. All right, we are on question number 6. Oof, I gotta check these off. Maybe I'll leave them blank so you can check them off. Question 6, create a pivot table with 2 levels of row dimensions. All right, that sounds good. Let's get some fake data here. Let me actually just add in, let's get some fake data going on here. Let's see here. Let's do school, and let's do school year, and let's do students. Who knows? Okay, school, apple, school, apple, school, apple, and mountain. I actually don't use a Mac, but Power School used to use, used to be made by Apple, so for some reason I think that stuck with me. All right, let's do school year SY 1920, SY 1819, SY 1718. And we're just going to copy this again. And let's do 10, 20, 30 students, 500, 600, 700 students. Now I can make a pivot table here. Click in here, insert pivot table, and I'm going to pick an existing worksheet just so I don't have a bunch of things everywhere. All right, and for this I'm going to pull school and school year, so it's just having 2 things in the row. And let's see how many students I have. So let's do the sum of students here. So that is question number 6. All right, question number 7. Let's see if we can do this real quick. For your pivot table with 2 row dimensions, design the table so the row dimensions are in their own columns and are repeated on every row. Okay, so instead of being this kind of funny formatting here, which looks nice but isn't practical a lot of times when we're doing Excel stuff, we want to change the design of it so that let's just get rid of these subtotals. We can keep the grand totals. The report layout we're going to show in tabular form, and we are going to repeat all item labels. And now you can see that we have apple, 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 mountain, mountain, mountain. This is formatted just the way I'd like. Now, this, of course, wasn't super necessary because that's already how this is formatted. But if you had more school years and students and stuff, this would show you the sum of what was going on in that. All right, I'm going to stop that one right there. We got through 7, and I'll do another one in a second.